Today I'm going to teach you how to do a one-arm handstand. It's going to be very, very quick, so hold tight, work on the progressions that you can do. Let's first start with the warm-up. Putting the quads, hip flexors up against the wall. Some hamstrings, calves, glutes and hips, upper back, thoracic and shoulders, wrists and hands. Okay, then we're just going to warm the handstand up. So first handstand of the day. I'm doing this session on the canes, but you could do this on the floor or blocks. So just hanging out here for 20, 30 seconds, just making sure the handstand feels okay. So either just holding straight position or moving through some shapes. So just whatever you need to do to warm up that position. You can see the rebalance in the elbows, especially when I go into shapes that require more mobility. Now, I'd recommend if you are working towards a one-arm handstand that you also start to work on your middle splits. So just getting as wide as possible in the middle splits is going to make the one arm so much easier. And I think the best way to do it is just spend time in the position. So because you're going to be doing thousands of sets of one-arm handstands, you want to do thousands of sets of just visiting the position of the middle splits. So playing with going down as deep as possible, depending on how your body is on the day, both in a open hip, so trying to drive the hip forwards, torso upright, and also a closed hip position to like wiggle your way down. And then next, let's focus on that straddle handstand. So trying to make the straddle as wide as possible, make it locked in. So I want to feel like aeroplane wings. So I can take the left down, the right goes up and vice versa. So there's good connection between leg to leg and also between the torso. So as you're doing this, you're slowly starting to flag in, but I'm also trying to keep a good handstand. Try not to bend the arms. The arms are going to want to bend, and just playing with that side to side movement. So depending on where you are on the journey, you're just going to find a part where this is going to get too difficult to get working sets. So it could be that one we just done. Literally, that's your one arm training. You start to increase that straddle position. You start to increase the flex on each side. So that flagging type movement. And if you work like 5 sets of that, every time you do your handstand balance, that's just going to get stronger and stronger. And then you can add the next layer to it. Now for all the stages, heading all the way to the one-arm handstand from the lower levels all the way to the harder levels, we need to really focus on pushing towards the midline. So what that means is, if I'm coming across to my right-hand side, I'm pushing my elbow and shoulder in towards the midline while I bring the legs down like this. Again, my legs are pulling towards the midline. They're not doing this. They're not leaning out to the side. So that's really, really important. Same if I go to the left-hand side, elbow, shoulder in towards the midline. So it's like I'm pushing in like this. This is going to make a super strong foundation that's still balanced and supported by the base, as opposed to the legs trying to balance us. So now we want to start thinking about going to that next level where we're shifting more weight to the working arm, decreasing a bit of weight out of the other arm, but also really focusing on that push into the midline. So if I open to my straddle position, now as I come in, my right arm elbow is pushing in towards that midline. There's less weight in my left hand than my right. Do the same on the opposite side. So pushing in towards that midline, elbow, shoulder in towards the midline, over to the other side. So really focusing on that for repetitions again. So here, shifting in as much as you can. There, shifting in as much as you can. Next, we can focus on where we're looking in the handstand. So that's really, really important that we pull down towards that base. Now, initially, when you're not transferring any weight, the base is still going to be between your hands, where you normally look in the 2-arm handstand. But as you go closer towards the one arm, start adding the next progressions, we need the base not to be here, but to be there or there. So elbow, shoulder in towards the midline, looking straight down. Normally between the thumb and index finger is the most common place to look. So we can practice that on the next stages. So in that position, straddle position, as I transfer weight across, I bring the elbow, shoulder in, and now I'm looking at my right hand. Same across to the other side, elbow, shoulder in towards the midline. Now I'm looking at my left hand, still really pulling towards that midline, and then come back again. Now, as we do more and more repetitions of that, what's going to happen is we're going to slowly decrease more weight out of the other hand. We're going to feel more stronger, more controlled on the base. And then at some point, you're going to find that you can start to lift up onto fingertips. Try not to rush this. It's going to be a bit funky to start with to get used to it, but transfer weight across,
when you feel that there's a lot of weight out of the other hand, I can start to go up onto fingertips. Now notice the elbow is bending. Now the elbow is bending so the shoulder doesn't hike up in the air. If the shoulder hikes up in the air, it's going to kick me out in that direction. As best you can, just try and bend the elbow slightly, hold for a few seconds and then come back down again. So let's try it on my bad side. So straddle position, transfer weight, feel there's enough weight out that I can go to fingertips, keep pushing towards that midline, and then back, return, show control, come back out. After a few more hundreds, if not thousands of repetitions, a few more weeks, if not a few more months, you'll be able to decrease the fingers even more, and then you can start to look at going to 4 fingers or 3 fingers, 2 fingers, and then eventually to 1 finger. But basically the technique that you're using is exactly the same from when you initially go up onto fingertips to all the way to 1 finger. So you'll notice exactly the same setup: straddle, look across, elbow, shoulder in towards midline, go to fingers, reduce fingers, reduce fingers, reduce fingers even more. Same on the other side, elbow, shoulder in, find the sweet spot, fingers, fingers less. See my elbows popping out a little bit, try and make sure that goes in, 1 finger, return, back to straight, show control, come back down. Now when you do get to 1 finger, you are going to feel that you're getting very, very close to the one arm handstand. Unfortunately, you've probably got another 6 months at least to start to get some air time of any quality. A realistic time frame for the one arm handstand is around 18 months to 2 years, but it is very different person to person. And what I recommend you do is spend 80% of your time working sets. So working sets would be going to those fingertips, going to that 1 finger, holding for time, and then coming back down. But 20%, try and lift the finger, try other things, play with the position, and just see what happens when you push the limits. But make sure that's only 20% and you're getting the 80% of your good quality repetitions. When you do start to lift the arm and play with that, try and again make sure that the same rules are happening. This shoulder isn't hiking up in the air. The elbow, shoulder are staying in towards the midline. We're trying to keep close to that base. This is controlling the handstand, not this. And try not to push out to the sides to transfer the weight. Try and pull in towards that midline and transfer all the weight to the base. I'd recommend you use a combination of handstand blocks, handstand canes, and floor to keep it fresh, keep it fun, to give your wrists some rest. It's much easier on the canes and the blocks. And remember that 80-20% rule. I would do most of your reps in the straddle position, but you could play with other positions like diamond, and then straight is seen as the hardest position if you don't hit the roof. Let's try that again. So straight position is seen as one of the harder positions to learn, and full position is super hard. Let me know if you're working towards the one arm handstand. Let me know if you have any questions towards it. If you want a structured program, check out my app, link is down in the description, and I'll speak to you next time.